one of the main activities I'm doing during this quarantine is game development, which is my FYP. So in this time I'm taking FYP 1, and basically we are required to make a prototype, a functioning prototype. So we didn't really focus much on the art aspect of it. My part is basically the character design and programming. So yeah, I'll dive into a few steps which I took in order to complete my FYP 1 for the time being. Alright, so for the character design, I mostly worked on these concept art and just to visualize how the characters would look like, and made a few drawings like these to know what kind of characters I'm going to include and try to add some personalities to them. In order to keep track of all the ideas and information I keep brainstorming for the game, I have these little Google Notes. In my Google Notes I have the blue notes, which indicates the notes that are related to our project. Like our game is called Happy Against Odds, and I have these different notes. I mean, one note which has brainstorming of me and my friend, one of me and my partner, and a few other more. Some ideas are by me, and some of the dialogues I think about from time to time, and the general FYP notes. So yeah, that's how I keep track of the ideas. Whenever I get an idea, I throw it out in one of these notes, depending on the category I'm supposed to write in. So for now, the only digital art I have for the game is the expressions of the main character, since I'm planning to make my game include the feature of sort of a visual novel, not necessarily a visual novel, but more like dialogue boxes where the characters speak to each other. So I'm facilitating that dialogue box with an art of each character and different expressions depending on what they are saying to each other during a conversation. So using Adobe Animate, which is not quite common for game dev, but you know, like most people use Photoshop or some other programs, but in my case, since I got used to Adobe Animate, I'm using it. So this is the concept art I made by hand drawing. And these are the different expressions of happy. So basically I am supposed to digitalize it, and I did. That's how they look like. Basically these are just a bunch of lines and curving them and filling with color, like just your basic normal paint tools, you know. But I try to play around with them and make this simple art. And in order to export, this is the stage. I'm making this in position, fixed in all the pictures, because when I export the image, I want all the pictures to be framed in this framework, or like I want all the images to be in the same position in every image exported. That's the idea. So yeah, for now I only made the main character's animation, the idle, where he's just staying there. For now I made only the eye blink and the running animation. If I made a loop here, we can see that he's actually running an animation, so I made sure that the first frame will actually continue on the end frame, something like this. Yeah, it looks like he's running forever. Of course, I made it faster in the game because you can actually change the duration between each frame when you work on the animation in the game engine. So yeah, the slash animation, upward dash animation, normal slash, jumping animation, which is fixed, and the slash during the jumping. So this is inside the game engine. I only made the basic art for the game because as I said, it's only a prototype. They're only expecting a functioning prototype, so I focused on the programming aspect of it. But I only made these animations just to give a feedback when I tried testing out the character. Made a few enemies and like 2 types of enemies for now, some spikes, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I made a few NPCs. NPC stands for non-playable character, and these are actually characters from my previous animation, which can work as an Easter egg in this early prototype of my Happy Against Odds game. So yeah, let's try testing it out and playing the game. Why? Because why not? So yeah. My character runs, he slashes. These enemies basically just keep following me around. I have to slash them in order to have some pushback when slashing. I also have the upper dash, which is kind of a fancy upper dashing, and a frontal dash, like as the name suggests. The spikes, for now I made them teleport me and hurt me at the same time, but I am supposed to make some fade out when that happens, just like some it's just an inspiration from another game called Hollow Knight. I made this little enemy which when hitting him he kind of shies away and doesn't take damage. The only way to hit him is to dash like that and go to the other side. So this is supposed to be part of the tutorial stage, and of course, like, you get these to I made this type of enemy to make the character make sure that your player, your character, your main character is actually invincible when he does the frontal dash. So yeah, this is the NPC. When you get close to him, he some animation pops up in order to inform the player that you can make some dialogue if you press the interactive key. So all the animations you saw are actually kind of spread around. Every animation has its own settings. For instance, if we go to the main character, this main character, and see his animations, you can see the idle where he blinks like when you're standing still. There's the jumping, which is fixed, running, and so on. So these animations, you can actually control the speed in here. And of course, so much coding. I mean, obviously, video games are such a hassle, and they are actually tiring and kind of troublesome when it comes to coding, especially for me, since I'm still a beginner and starting from scratch in game dev. So the way how this works is basically you have a transition from each animation. For instance, if I'm falling, let's say I'm falling, if I'm falling, the moment I touch the ground, it immediately goes into the running animation. So yeah, here when I'm falling, see there's a line between running and falling, going back and forth, like a line going from running to fall, and a line going back from fall to running, so that whenever the character or the player has to transition from an animation to the next, it takes place. So yeah, that's how all of these work. It's just basically a transition from each animation to the next, to cover up all the different scenarios or the different possibilities that might happen in the animation. It was troublesome, but I'm still getting there. I'm still a beginner, but learning. So yeah, that's pretty much the game dev I'm making, and hopefully I end up with a good FYP project by the end of the road. Inshallah. Thank you for watching.